Hey,
You are now
Barbada.
listening to
A round of applause,
Feeding Off
everybody.
Each Other.
New digs. We made it. New scenery. Welcome to the
We're
new
in.
and improved Feeding Off Each Other podcast. It's much more echoey now.
Yeah, there's not a lot in here other than this that you see.
It's a stadium, so
We've moved into BC Place.
yeah.
If you are watching us on YouTube, we are in a new place. We talked about having new office, new studio, and we made it. We finally made it. Pretty crazy. But yeah, right now we're just kind of a shell of a set. We have one picture on the wall. We have a
Got real crooked too.
we just hung that literally 5 minutes ago. We have a curtain, some white walls, and I don't know how to turn off our heating, air conditioning, HVAC system. So there's a little bit of room tone, but yeah, only up from here, fellas. Good stuff.
Yeah, no, it is good. I'm so comfy in these couches.
Yeah, we got new couches.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on a talk show now.
I know.
We're open to camera. We're not at the little table anymore.
Yeah.
I kind of miss being intimate. Do you think we could just like get closer
I
at
don't-
some point?
I don't
I
think so.
literally don't think so.
Well, our cords are too short.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what she said.
Welcome to Feeding Off Each Other, the weekly podcast where we feed off the talent, humor, knowledge, and awesome stories of our guests and each other. I'm Matt Dennison, and I'm joined by Jason, could be a Deerdo, Lucas.
Oh, shit. Throwback.
Got a deer shirt on.
I connected that all together.
Yeah.
I thought about this last night, yes. And you guys know what's on the back of my shirt? You seen the back of my shirt?
Could
Nope.
be a deer. No.
Rain?
Oh, careful. Oh,
Oh.
that ass.
It's a deer's ass, everyone, for the listeners.
The cords are way too short here. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have got
Matt's
up.
the only one with a restricted length cord. Oh,
and his-
my soundboard.
You
And the
fell out.
soundboard just unplugged.
What a mess. I'm also joined by David.
Mhm.
No, it's not a deer. It's definitely a salmon, Wiggins.
That's me.
Someone asked me in the comments to always refer to you as the salmon.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time, intro you as the salmon.
Well, that's how I want to be remembered.
As a fish?
Yeah.
It'll go on your tombstone.
It's not, I mean, there's way worse things you can be remembered for.
I mean, yeah. The time I jumped like a salmon in elementary school, I don't know if that's what I want my legacy to be.
And high school.
I mean, barely in high school.
All right, guys, let's get to our guests because it's been a while since we've done a podcast here. We kind of stockpiled. We had to like move into this place. We had a production to shoot. We had a bunch of things. I feel rusty.
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't we
Space,
start-
too.
Why don't we start talking to someone who's much more intelligent than us, who can probably speak and use words better than us? Who wants to do the intro?
Jason.
No, I wrote it. I feel like one of you guys. I want one of you guys to do it.
All right.
I'm nervous now. What are you guys gonna
I
say?
gotta pull up the show notes.
Oh,
then.
he's not.
This
even
is the
prepared.
fir-
This is a producer.
This is one of those podcasts where I have not read any of the show notes, so
Ugh.
All right, I'm reading this blind. You guys ready?
Yes.
blind.
I got Braille on my screen, so. Today's guest has made a name for themselves on YouTube by creating mountain bike content right here on the North Shore, the Sea to Sky, and wherever else his travels take him. When he's not on his bike, he is studying, magnetoencephalography.
That's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay. At Simon Fraser University, making him the smartest mountain bike YouTuber we know. On top of all that, he is the father of a lovely corgi named Astro. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome VanCan, aka Nic Zilinski.
Yeah.
Yay.
That was great.
Was it accurate?
Yeah.
Is Astro still with us?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you imagine?
Yeah, it could.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
He's pretty young. He's 3 years old now.
Okay. So just started smoking and
Yeah.
getting into trouble.
His teen years.
Yeah.
He can drive.
He can drive.
Learner's permit.
How do you pronounce magneto? That one?
Magnetoencephalography.
Ah, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
I wanted
so
to
it's-
give it a shot.
It's so people are probably more familiar with electroencephalography.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
me too.
You talk about it all the time.
Well, I think
So refreshing.
it comes up on TV a lot. Like doctor shows are pretty popular.
Sure,
They
sure,
use
sure.
EEG a lot. Magnetoencephalography is quite a bit less common, and and so it requires explanation, and it's hard to pronounce.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to give a full explanation because I have no idea what you're talking about.
So have you seen X-Men?
Magneto? Oh, okay. Say no more.
I'm the first one that's probably ever made that joke.
Okay, here we go. It's a non-invasive. This is just off the top of my dome. Okay, I'm reading this on Google. It's a non-invasive medical test that measures the magnetic fields produced by your brain's electrical currents.
See, we did our
that.
research, so we already knew that.
Yeah, we already knew.
Yeah.
I'm doing it live.
Nick, if I was 5 years old mentally, how would you explain it?
And you are.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a type of brain scan where we see how your brain is working. And I think, I mean, depending how smart you are as a 5-year-old, maybe you know what an MRI is.
Okay.
So that's kind of the type of brain imaging I think most people think about. But what that machine does is produce a picture of your brain, just like a photograph. And you look at it, and it's just, that is how it is, right? Like if I have a photograph of Matt.
You just see monkeys with cymbals crashing.
But so with magnetoencephalography and electroencephalography, you're taking a functional image. You're looking at how the brain, like what it's doing. So it would be maybe like, sure, I could see a photograph of you, but if you ask like, oh, what was he saying? Or, was he breathing funny when we took this photograph? We wouldn't know. So that's where the functional part comes in. An MEG doesn't produce an image that shows, any sort of structure. It shows where the activity is, and that activity causes magnetic fields, and we pick that up with a big machine called an MEG.
It's kind of like those cameras that are infrared or whatever, and you can see someone farting.
I mean, yeah.
Thank you for explaining
Yeah.
Magnum 5.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Now I get it.
You know those ones you see the dark cloud? You ever seen those videos?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. I mean, you could almost think of it like video, like maybe a video where it only picked up motion. It may be a good analogy.
Right.
But honestly, I have a hard time explaining it. I'm still learning it. I'm still in school, so I don't go on a lot of podcasts where I have to explain the fields. Even to other engineers or people in the lab, there's still a lot of ums and ahs and going like I think it does that. And so, yeah.
So you're highly underqualified to speak on this. Do you use these machines?
Yeah. So I guess the big picture of it all. So my advisor is head of MEG at Surrey Memorial Hospital, and Surrey Memorial Hospital, a lot of people I guess wouldn't be familiar with, but it's a huge hospital in Surrey. It's the best hospital in Canada, I think, and it's similar to like a level of like the Stanford hospitals and things like that. So lots of really interesting research and stuff goes on there. And the machine looks like the one that you showed me there.
Yeah, this looks like it's straight out of X-Men.
Yeah, so the machine, it does look like that. It's in the basement. It's in a big metal room. And the machine is actually designed and built here in Coquitlam by a company called CTF, and I worked with them briefly. So the machine, the MEG machines, and debatably one of the best, is actually manufactured and designed here in Coquitlam.
Huh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
In your garage?
Just me. It's still a small industry, so it's not like a huge, it's not like Philips where it's like a nice campus and like you're not visiting Apple or anything like that. It's still almost like a startup vibe in these companies.
So this is a crazy looking machine. It's, how would you describe this? It kind of looks like a toilet that's upside down, mounted on the ceiling, and then you stick your head like you're giving yourself a swirly up into the toilet bowl.
So you're standing.
That's pretty accurate.
Like a standing swirly.
Well, yeah. So the aesthetics, medical aesthetics is an interesting one. You basically, I think, if I remember right, there might be some standards for why things are like white and beige, to kind of give like a sense of calm. Yeah.
Is that calm? It's like sterile, clinical, evil. I hate it.
I think now it's people are so used to seeing that at the hospital, and that's where you go for bad stuff, and now you associate that with like something bad is coming. And
Just like our
Imagine if it was like
digs here.
Imagine though if it was like black with like steel and like it'd be so much scarier.
Or it had like flames on it.
Yeah.
That'd
Guy
be
Fieri was like, "Sup?"
so we do we study children a lot. I mean, I don't, but the field does.
Go on.
And that's another thing too. Like you couldn't make it. You wouldn't want to put like flames on it or like have like a death metal vibe because a lot of children are going in here and they're already scared. It's the pretty unknown. And it's a weird looking thing, and it looks like it might hurt you. In this case, MEG it's totally non-invasive. It is your brain is just giving off magnetic fields. We're picking it up. And the machine also doesn't touch you. Like you go inside the helmet, maybe you might touch the sides of the helmet, but it's not shooting any rays at you or radiation or anything. You're just giving off these magnetic fields, and we're picking them up. So yeah, there's no real danger to it. There's definitely nothing to be scared of. It doesn't hurt or anything like that.
So what is happening in this machine?
So
I'm imagining something spinning around really fast.
Yeah. So the reason it's so big is there's a lot of insulation. That part, the way it works is they use a type of sensor called a squid, which is a superconducting quantum interference device.
That's a fake.
Yeah. Was
Wait, can you say that again? What?
A squid, so superconducting quantum interference device. That's the type of sensors that is commonly used in these type of machines.
Conducting, starting with Q.
Quantum.
Yeah.
Yeah, super. And the S is superconducting. Sometimes these acronyms, I feel like they think of a cool acronym first. And
They backwards deconstruct it.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot of like funny stuff in science that happens like that. Where you're like, oh, that seems like you trolling us.
I mean, everything's marketing.
Oh, it
still.
Is. So yeah, I'll get back to your question. But even the other types of sensors we work on, the stuff that I work on, I would say originally they were called atomic sensors, but there's such a negative connotation to the word atomic that we refer to them, kind of as optically pumped instead, just specifically for the marketing reason. When people come into the hospital and we're explaining to them, say if eventually we design a helmet that does these things, we use the atomic sensors, and you come into the hospital, someone who's totally doesn't know anything about how these things work, and they hear the word atomic, they're going to think probably some pretty negative stuff, like, could this explode? Like is there little atomic bombs on my head, and is it dangerous? Because they associate that word. And same with nuclear. Nuclear medicine kind of tries to stay away from the word nuclear.
I'm not putting my head in anything nuclear.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's going on with that machine? The reason it's so big is to get to the superconducting part is you need to cool down the sensors. And we do that by putting them in liquid helium. And so we create the liquid helium. You fill up that's a big like tube of liquid helium in there. And the sensors are all down in the helmet. And you could basically kind of think of them like little loop antennas. Like they're just little circles of metal, kind of. And we need to cool them down so they become superconducting. That's what makes them really sensitive to magnetic fields. And then, if something is going to be that cold, so liquid helium is going to be about 270 degrees below zero, you then need to insulate that from everything.
That's how cold our office was when we first moved in.
Nothing is moving.
Everything, liquid helium everywhere.
We all lost limbs to frostbite.
Dave's still recovering.
Sorry. That was a phlegm bite right there.
So cold.
And so that's like the whole tube and the whole apparatus. The actual sensors part is just really housed in that helmet, and the sensors themselves are quite small. Only a few centimeters. So all of it's just supporting hardware. And it's big because, again, part of it is the aesthetics don't matter. You just need a machine that works. And it's a small industry. And there just isn't a pressure to make it like cool, or even, they don't even really need to be small because you'll just put it in a big room. I guess they could try and make it smaller, but then that comes at the compromise of making maybe a worse machine. And there's enough problems to deal with.
I feel like in a few decades, you're going to look back at this and think, that's ridiculous. Like thinking back to my first computer, 35 gigabytes, $2,000.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we're hoping. So if you scroll down, there's actually an an image with there's a woman with a face helmet on at some point.
Oh yeah.
So she, wherever she is there, I think that's the Nottingham group. And
This one here.
Oh, they published in Nature.
This one.
Oh, she
Yeah,
was
yeah.
terrifying.
Sorry,
This is so much scarier.
Yeah, this
Holy
is like
shit.
the Phantom of the Opera meets.
Okay,
I don't know.
it does look
It's Matrix.
way more terrifying. So that's just a 3D printed helmet to help house all the sensors that are on top of her head there. And those are the sensors that they're trying to move. So instead of having this whole apparatus of like liquid helium and big machine, they're trying to move to a mobile machine where you just put the helmet on and it would look something like that.
Okay. This is how mountain bike YouTubers look on the trails sometimes with their GoPros on their head.
Oh yeah, it's
This is going to be turned into a meme. I feel like she doesn't look happy at all to be
No.
in that situation.
Is that the one where she's holding the coffee?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that is specifically they're studying activation in the motor cortex for what's happening as she sips a coffee. Like,
Okay.
I think that's the study.
That's cool.
And they're just making sure it works.
I thought they were just like, wear this mask and live your life. Have
That's-
your coffee.
So that's the goal of like some of these companies. I mean, Neuralink is going that way, but there's also another company that doesn't get too much media attention called Kernel. So basically, it seems like Kernel and Elon both had the same sort of vision for brain-computer interfaces. Neuralink went the invasive route. So they want to kind of insert the electrodes right into your brain, which works really, really well because you can attach to a very small little bundle of neurons. But then, yeah, that requires brain surgery and inserting stuff into your brain, which is pretty dicey. And so Kernel is going the other route where they're trying to make helmets, like mobile helmets and stuff like that. And they have two machines and
They're laughing at me. I lost my auxiliary cord again.
but yeah, they're going the non-invasive route, using some other techniques, and they want to make brain-computer interfaces, and they want things like, even like, so we know about heart health. I wear a Whoop or an Apple Watch or whatever, and it tells me things like my heart rate variability or my resting heart rate, or if I have I could do a little ECG with my watch, look for arrhythmias or things like that. But there really isn't that for the mind, and we know that, subjectively, these things are happening. Like some days you just don't feel well. If you're depressed, there are things that are you feel, but what quantity we're going to measure. And so I think that's part of the hope of these things too. You want to have an ability for people to monitor, their brains long term, especially even with concussions. There's other groups that do that are looking at, right now you get a concussion and the doctor, like the best they can do is like have you look at a stick and be like, okay, he seems like he's all there. And it's kind of a subjective test. They're working on what are the markers of, is someone, they've rattled their brain to a point where they need to rest. Are there markers in an EEG that we can say objectively, like, oh yeah, like you need to tone it down? And then we just monitor them until what point, are they good to go? So yeah, lots of stuff like that. And can't remember what the original question was anymore. Sort of.
I think my question maybe a while ago was what's happening in this machine? Like things are
Right.
spinning really fast, or
right. Yeah, so nothing's spinning. The only thing, I guess, the helium. We have a helium recycler, so helium boils off and turns into helium gas. The only thing that's spinning around or moving is that we are capturing the helium, compressing it back to a liquid, and putting it back in the machine.
Whoa.
Other than that, it's not like if you've ever seen like an open CT scanner that sometimes comes up, and when they turn it on, like it's spinning super fast, and it's like a big heavy metal machine. It looks pretty crazy. Yeah, nothing scary like that. MEG is definitely the least scary. The only possible bad thing that could happen to you is if the helium leaked. You're in a what's called a mu metal room. It's basically just a shielded metal box to keep out magnetic noise and stuff like that. And the only thing that possibly could happen to you is if there was a leak, the room would fill up with helium. You would be really squeaky.
That would be hilarious.
As you died because you would suffocate. But
that is a sketch right there. Write that sketch.
Yeah. So that's
the
like
dying part.
Yeah, everybody dying, but in a room full of helium.
Someone in my high school died from they
God.
inhaled from a helium balloon pump machine, and they inhaled it directly, and they got like a bubble in their brain or something, and they're in their lung, and yeah, it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah,
Never mind,
so
don't write it.
yeah.
You should probably feel bad.
I do.
Yeah. So there's that danger, but there's vents and stuff and sensors that are if the room does fill up with helium, a bunch of sensors go off. There's a fan that turns on that starts pulling air in and sucking air out.
Do you need the sensor? Can't you just tell? People start, I guess if nobody's talking.
Well, it'll start to detect it if there's even like a slight increase in helium.
Okay.
Even especially because helium's going to rise, right? So it's going to fill up the top of the room, and you wouldn't notice. So the top part of this room could be filled with helium, and it could be coming down,
Oh, it is.
and then
Matt doesn't get a sensor. He just has a guy that never stops talking. He's like, he kind of sounds like Daffy Duck. Oh shit!
everyone run.
So as the podcast goes on, our voices are just gonna get squeakier and squeakier. Thanks for watching, guys. So I just broke the sound barrier, I think. So what's what does your main interest lie in this technology? Like, where do you want to see this going? How do you want to implement it?
I would probably just going to work with someone who is part of a big company working on this because it's a really complicated problem to make these machines. There's tons of math and physics. And so I guess where my project and my graduate work come in is trying to move these mobile sensors kind of in the right direction. So right now we use squids. Those are the ones they work really well. The machines work well and everything like that, but it ends up all being super expensive to have this machine and the helium and the room, and it's not mobile, and the helmet is fixed. So if you have, children come in, they have small heads, and then the sensors are further away from the head, and so it needs to be a one-size-fit-all helmet and all these kind of things. We, in terms of the imaging community, it would be nice to see a mobile imaging system, and one of the ways we can do that is by replacing these squid sensors with these atomic magnetometers that we also call optically pumped magnetometers, and that's what I work on. So right now, I just get right into some specifics here. So my project specifically is to try and build a specific type of one of these magnetometers. And so say the issue right now, one of the issues right now, there's tons of issues with them, which is good because there's lots of work to do. But so you can build an atomic sensor. Say if you just built one and you have it out just here, it would just pick up tons of noise. It would just be like you're at Metallica concert and you're trying to hear someone whisper from 20 feet away. And one of the techniques that you can do to hear that whisper is we can take, say, two sensors, and when let's stick with this talking analogy. Say we're both at this concert, and we're pretty far away. We're hundreds of feet away. I'm here. Jason's 20 feet away. We both hear the concert pretty much the same. And say Jason wants to say something to me. He's saying, I can't really hear him. As, say, sound or magnetic fields propagate, they do fall off. And what you can do is you can take two sensors. I could stick one where I am, and then I could hold one over here. And what I could do is I could take the difference between the two. And so since, we're far away from that really loud source, both of those sensors are going to hear the same thing. And so that's going to get subtracted away. And then since Jason is closer to me, the first one's going to hear a louder noise, like of Jason speaking. And then the second one's going to hear that a little bit quieter. So that only gets slightly subtracted away. And so then you can pick up, you can kind of get rid of the background noise and just hear what someone's saying. And so we call that a gradient. So we're measuring the gradient of in this case, audio. But I'm trying to measure the gradient of magnetic field. And you can just keep doing this. So that would be a first order gradient. So the difference between 2 points. But then if you take, say, 3 sensors and you have 2 differences, and then you take the difference of the difference, you then get into a second order gradient, and you can basically form like you can almost think of it like a bubble of like everything in this bubble I'll be able to hear, and outside the bubble is going to be subtracted away. And the higher and higher gradients, the higher order gradients you start to measure, you kind of tighten in that bubble more and more and more. And so right now, the way that the sensors work is they might take two sensors, separate sensors, and measure the gradients and subtract them in like a post-production, like a post-processing of the data. And I'm going to try a technique where you measure the gradient within the physics of the sensor itself. So it's going to the sensor isn't going to measure two magnetic fields separately and do it later. It's going to actually just measure the gradient directly. And if that's going well, I might try to measure the second order gradient directly. And there's some benefits to this in just terms of hopefully if you do it right, the signal to noise ratio will be better or something like that. And there'll be some benefits and whatnot. So that's what I do. I'm trying to do. And
can you use it to make our podcast sound better? Because it sounds like it might remove the noise today.
Well, I think I was actually thinking about that if people do use it for situations like this. Like if the sound in the room is the same kind of everywhere, you could put another mic over in that corner, and then what would happen if later on you went and just subtracted these mics from that mic. Our voices would be really quiet in that one, but maybe the room tone would be the same, and then you could subtract it and maybe. But I haven't really looked on to see if people do this kind of thing in audio. There must be something along these lines. Audios.
I
think
just
so.
let AI do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems way easier.
Yeah, this all seems like something ChatGPT could do.
I've actually used it for these types of situations where I'm like, how do you explain this? Like, because it does such a good job of like, you're like, explain this to me. I always have to go like in simple terms, like no matter what it is.
Right.
Like I wouldn't want that like stuff I should know probably.
What would it take for you guys to get Neuralink? What stage of development does it need to be at for you to get a
Beta.
hole drilled into your head and a little chip installed? Because sometimes you're on your phone. I mean, this is my take on what Neuralink's supposed to be. You're on your phone and you have to send a text or attach a photo to an email, and all that it takes. It's a simple process, but you gotta go to the photo album. You gotta click the photo. You gotta right click the three dots. You gotta hit share. You gotta attach that to the email. You gotta wait 2 seconds for it to load. You gotta put in the name, all that, and it takes 30 seconds. And it seems like that's not much time, but when you do that many, many times throughout the day, and you want to make it efficient, if you could just get a chip and think about it for 1 second and it does it for you, wouldn't that be great? For the low price of having a hole drilled in your head?
I almost think that it would go, like instead of allowing us to do stuff that's still exterior to our mind, I think it would just allow for a more straightforward connection between two minds. Because anytime, like say if I have a thought, I need to sort of compress it into words. I say it, you hear it, you unzip that file and you go like, okay, like what's going on in here? What I think could happen is that I could just share my thought, like my feeling, like the whole uncompressed data set of whatever it is I'm trying to communicate. I would send it to you.
Say no more.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, there you
completely.
go.
But I do wonder, though, if you don't have your own internal context of the way your mind thinks, that it might not actually translate across to another brain directly in that sort of way, right? So, and the process of, you speaking out your thoughts is part of the process of you thinking, I think, a lot of the time. Like, you kind of have to get it outside of yourself first. I almost wonder if that's even would work in that way.
Yeah, well, the brain is it's super weird. It does lots of things that don't seem like it doesn't work how you think it would work, I suppose, or expect it to work just from your subjective feeling. It does lots of weird stuff. And even just thinking about the reasons you do things, kind of sometimes it can happen afterwards. Thoughts and feelings and stuff should sort of appear out of your unconscious, and you might make a decision, and then it seems like some studies are showing that sometimes you you can trick people into thinking they've made decisions too. Like there's a study, something like they showed people images, and their researcher was controlling the mouse, and they would say like, oh, choose an image, and they were able to trick people into thinking they were controlling, and they were rationalizing like, oh yeah, like I chose the picture of the giraffe because like I like giraffes, and really it was just the researcher was doing it and saying like giraffe, and so yeah, there is like that whole context in what actually is happening in the mind when you think or feel or do anything, and how are you going to communicate that, and that's a problem. Yeah, so that area, I don't really do neuroscience or stuff like that, but yeah, that's a problem for Neuralink and whatnot.
Well, and if you're connected by your brains, like how much are you then able to filter what you're communicating, right? Like if you're that closely connected and there's no barrier,
yeah, you're gonna hear all my intrusive thoughts.
Yeah,
you're gonna hear all the garbage.
Like,
you're gonna hear all
I
the
don't think I'd
monkeys
want
with
that.
symbols.
And it's like, it almost feels like too, if you had something in your brain, you would never be able to disconnect, right? So you're just in everything all the time. Whereas right now you can like close your device or turn it off or put it away.
Yeah, that's what, even now I'm trying to use my phone less, which is hard when you make content and things like that. And I enjoy Instagram and YouTube and whatnot. But there's times where I'm like, I've been scrolling Instagram for like 2 hours and haven't really gotten anything out of it. And so, yeah, so if you were directly connected to it where maybe you couldn't exactly shut it off, it would get weird for sure. But I guess I'm pretty optimistic about it, especially in terms of the sort of the other stuff that it'll allow us to do. People who have lost function of, say, their legs, being able to sort of regain control and make sort of our own connection with the brain into the legs and things like that. And yeah, I think that's on the horizon, hopefully, it seems like.
In your studies, have you learned anything that's changed your perception of reality and how your mind thinks and how others communicate with you?
Yes, in a few ways. So it seems like the more you learn about, say, psychology and neuroscience and things like that, it seems like all of these things are such physical processes. Like you learn about how the mind works, so you're like, oh, the neurons are here and there's chemical channels and they fire and they open, and this chemical builds up and then they fire, and that's your thought, and it starts to you start to think like, well, if this stuff is just kind of all just happening, like, are you controlling that? Do you have the free will to choose, are you really controlling this? Are you the author of your thoughts, really? Or are you just a state? Your brain is just a state, is taking in inputs, and whatever state it's in, it makes some computation, and that's a thought, and then you act on that. So in that way, I guess, yeah, just sort of like a philosophical way about how I think about how the mind works and things like that. That's more of like a hobby horse, I guess, for me. And it starts to get a bit into the philosophy of, what is like free will or anything like that. But I think it's super interesting, and I guess it really hasn't changed like a day-to-day life about how I think about things, but I guess I spend a lot of time being interested in these things. And another way that I think about things, I think there is a point to when people say, your teacher or whatever, when you're learning math in high school and you're like, this sucks, like, this is boring, that it'll be useful or it helps the way you think. And I think that is true when you learn math and physics and things like this. The way that you process information and you go, these actions cause this, and you think about it in a logical way. I think that studying math and physics and things like this as sort of, it's in the background always of going like, okay, I've got this, and I need to go here, and how do I logically go like A, B, C, D? So I guess that in like an abstract sense, like just the study of math or things like that has affected how I think about kind of other things or how I go about them.
Do you see yourself getting Neuralink in your lifetime?
I'm extremely like medical adverse, like definitely a hypochondriac, and it's a bit of a meme, I guess, or not even a meme, but just it happens when doctors are in medical school and they start reading about all the things that can go wrong and all the diseases. You are like, yeah, I got all these. And I'm definitely like that. And even like, yeah, even reading about the brain stuff, it's like, yeah, all that just medical things just make me nervous and cause anxiety. So
it seems like you chose a great field.
I know. I think I just couldn't be a doctor out of that part of like, I would be just so concerned for my, like, concerned by myself. That sounds selfish, but more like just in constant fear of like looking at symptoms and being like, you know, you look on WebMD and it's like, oh, I've got all these. I'm dying now.
Do you call that, is that white coat syndrome?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
It's a hypochondria and something like that. But yeah, so I like the idea, like in principle, I guess, in theory. But in terms of actually like being sedated and having surgery performed, that seems pretty scary.
Yeah. What about you guys, Jason? Get Neuralink?
I'd do it. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what it actually does and if it's super helpful for life. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like the same thing when, no, it's not the same, but it's similar to when like cell phones came out and people were like, you're going to get brain cancer because you're holding up a phone to your head all the time.
I mean, we might still time. Yeah, there's still time for us to find out.
Yeah,
sadly.
I like the sounds of it though.
Yeah, so it'll become, especially if it is really good, you'll have to do it, because even now, being someone without a cell phone, it starts to just affect like everything about your life. You're just like, you're out of the loop. And if we're talking about a machine or a device that increases your intelligence, like you're just going to be just like a monkey walking around like a bunch of super geniuses, and you're like, oh, like this is awful.
Think about if it really gets applied when we're older too, and then like all the kids have it, and you're the grandpa that like the gap between a kid and like, you know, an elderly person now is so huge with their technological competency. So at that point, it would just be like,
it's coming for
years.
us.
Yeah,
we're gonna fall behind one day.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm already like, what are the kids listening to these days?
Yeah.
How neat is that?
I'm going to have the soundboard in my head if I get Neuralink. And I won't need the computer anymore. I won't need an iPad. It's going to be amazing. That's what I look forward to.
Yeah. Or maybe they'll be like, they'll be having like a real life experience will be like its own thing in terms of like that'll be like a pure experience. Like just like you know, way back when we were hunter-gatherers, everyone was camping because, well, they had to, right? You just lived in the woods. And now we do that for fun. So maybe they'll be like, everyone will be connected all the time, and we'll go be normal for a while as like a little like adventure. You know, like, oh, we'll turn off the Neuralink and we'll actually experience like what it's like to not have all of humanity's knowledge.
Yeah. Soon mountain biking will just be a combination of Neuralink and the Oculus. There'll be virtual reality. You won't even be moving. You'll just be in bed.
I mean, if you have something in your brain, do you need something in your eyes? Because could the link just be telling your brain what you're seeing?
Well, so you're someone correct me in the comments, but I think your eyes are actually part of the brain.
Right. Exactly.
And that information also goes to the back of the head here in the occipital area. And so, yeah, I guess you'd be connected to the eyes in the sense you can just connect to the brain.
What do you think someone's going to say in the comments to that?
Yeah, the chuthers.
The chuthers are coming out.
Hey, I trust your audience.
They're going to say occipital. I loved him on Pimp My Ride.
Well, so there's actually already implants you can get for people. They were testing people with vision loss. You could insert sensors and just have it fed directly into the brain. And they couldn't see images exactly, but they would be able to differentiate like larger objects and things like that. And it's pretty interesting, actually. It seems like I guess, if you're blind and someone's like, oh, you could kind of see again, you'll take that risk and be like, yeah, let's shove some stuff in here and see what happens.
Wait.
That's what Mr. Beast did.
Could it make you a better mountain biker? Like if your sense of balance isn't that great or your depth perception, can it increase those things?
Yeah, I wonder if I guess possibly, just totally guessing now, but you could take someone else's muscle memory and insert that in just like into your mind. Like you could be like, I want to ride like Gwyn and like
you could download like a trick pack.
Yeah, like
Oh my god, that's cool.
So,
I would get the Joey pack so then when we're making goofy music videos, I ride like a beginner.
It's like in The Matrix when he's like, I know Kung Fu.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
See, now everyone wants it.
Yeah.
You don't need a choreographer on like a music video set. You just download the choreography pack.
Yep.
This reminds me of, have you guys seen Gattaca?
A long time ago.
Yeah, the whole concept is it's in the future and everyone's been sort of genetically modified and it's so excellent, but some people are naturally born that are from like, less, wealthy families. And Ethan Hawke's character tries to get into the space program as like a non-genetically enhanced person. So he has to like impersonate someone else. It is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I could, what I'm saying is I could see a future where like people, half the people have like a Neuralink and half the people don't. And,
Yeah.
The normies are still trying to compete.
Oh yeah,
Wasn't that episode of Black Mirror?
I mean, everything is.
Yeah, that's true.
that'll be divisive.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm way more optimistic about it than Black Mirror, and I think it mostly sounds scary. But I think the first problems they'll solve will be things like blindness and paraplegic and things like that. And I think once that starts to happen, and you go like I can walk again now. I think culturally, like this whole implant thing will change because we're already. People made the argument that like you're already kind of a cyborg with your phone. You're not physically attached to it, but so much of you is your phone. And the phone is like the one thing that people, if they leave their house without it, will go back to go get. Things like that. So it's kind of like an extension of yourself, and it's happening already, just slowly.
Did you guys see the Mr. Beast video? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
don't
seen
think
it,
so.
but I do know what you're talking about.
Cured 1,000 people's blindness.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
Or I saw the little snippet of it.
Yeah. I think I would only get a Neuralink if Mr. Beast gifted it to me.
Yeah.
That's what it would take for
It's
me.
coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would that episode be called?
Giving Neuralink to one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the thumbnail is like him holding a drill to someone's brain.
Well, it'd be like
And
limitless, right?
smiling.
And a blue sky.
Oh, limitless.
It would.
Take a
I mean,
pill.
it would be like that. Like your processing power. The brain, just doesn't process things that well compared to computers. And it seems like, and then it's kind of like once you ring that bell. So, for example, chess. Ever since we made a robot that was better at chess, that is it from now on. No person will ever be better at chess, and that is just growing and growing. It's better at Go now, and it'll just be better at more and more things, and eventually it'll just be like, it'll be like limitless in the sense of if everyone had this and you're all playing chess, you will not win. You'll just be the worst, and maybe it just won't be an option. Which sounds scary, but like I said, more optimistic.
It's like doping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, you'll have tournaments where you have to turn off your Neuralink.
But then there'll be like secret ways that you
Yeah,
stay on and all this controversy.
But then his machine will read your brainwaves and be like, no, he's doping. Tying it back.
Yeah.
So you're a pretty smart guy. Why do you also make YouTube videos? Why aren't you making $1 million as a? I can't even say the word. I'm not even gonna try.
It's funny how you present yourself, I guess, or what people think of you versus how you think of yourself in terms of how you would define yourself. I think a lot of people only know me as the mountain biker, but that is such a small percentage of like my actual time spent. I do spend like 99% of my time at the university, and but that's, riding bikes and even making content has been a hobby for a long time. Even when I started riding in I guess like the 2007-ish era, I mountain biked, but there was no mountains in Kenora. And so like street was really popular because of like drop in, and I loved like Dylan Tremblay and people like that. And so I had like a mulleted specialized rock hopper, and I would make edits and I can't even remember the program now, but I had
Neuralink.
Sony Vegas.
Not even Vegas. There was some free program, and then you had to use like the RCA cables that went in. Like I had a really old camera, and it had like RCA cables. You plug it in, and then you had to play back the video and record it like live onto the computer.
Mm-hmm.
We do that now.
Yeah, we still do that with our dad cam.
Yeah. It was that. But I would make edits, and then I would burn them to DVDs, and I would like bring them around and be like, watch me do like an Abubakar to 50 Cent.
Dave, take your best guess as to what an Abubakar is.
Riding a bike. I don't know. Like fucking, what do I say? I don't even.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, so the back wheel stall.
It's not, no, just.
If we had the Neuralink, I would just look at you and you would get it. I'd be like,
I know a Bubaka.
Yeah.
Bobica.
I said Bubaka.
So I've always made edits and things like that. I enjoyed cameras, playing with them and things like that. And
what was your first encounter with a camera? What first got you into? Like, what was your first?
Sounds super dark. Like something bad happened to me. Like,
what the hell?
Like a JVC pulled out like a switchblade in an alley.
You take this or this.
First encounter with a camera. No, I just mean like, why did you get interested in making edits? I mean, it's.
I got to think about this for a second. Why did I make an edit?
Were you in a class in high school, or
No, it was before that even. Like
In preschool.
your parents always have a camera?
They had a camera. I must have. I think I'm going to say drop in. I'm going to say watching drop in, seeing that my parents had a camera, and then like kind of putting two and two together, and then filming myself being like, oh, what does it look like when I drop off this curb? And like, oh, it looks pretty dumb. And I think it just started from there. And there must have been, so I think, yeah, Pink Bike was definitely around. And I think there was like video. Yeah, there was videos then. And then as soon as I got on Pink Bike and I saw people making edits, I was kind of like, oh, like that's cool.
You were addicted to the reputation points on the forums, perhaps?
Oh, I didn't even get that.
Oh, you didn't?
No. I wasn't a heavy Pink Bike user. I think I uploaded one video from like 2007 or something like that. But I think that's where I got the inspiration, I suppose. I just saw what people were doing and I was like, that's cool to make like a video of yourself riding. And so then when I was mountain biking, I was mostly riding street and skate parks and things like that. And then eventually it kind of just made sense that I bought a BMX. I was like, I'm riding the skate park all the time. Why don't I just buy a BMX? And then I BMX'd basically from, I think I was 13 until I moved here in 2017. And again, in BMX culture, there's a big kind of like edit culture. And that just, again, all kind of flowed naturally of like, well, let's just make like BMX edits. And again, like no one ever saw them really or anything. So it was mostly for fun. And even along those lines, we were making videos. And that's how I got into photography a little bit. Because it was like, oh, I've got videos are pretty cool. Like, what if we had photos of ourselves? Especially with Facebook coming around, you wanted cool photos to put up and like have a cool profile picture or something like that. And you're like, yeah, I ride bikes.
Basically, like the reputation kind of thing, gratification, dopamine hit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, he on X Games mode.
Yeah, but even But there's lots of.
Sorry, is that our first sound of the podcast? We need the Neuralink soundboard really bad.
Oh yes, Daddy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just really drowned out the white noise in here. It's good.
But yeah, even with photography though, there's lots of photos that I've taken that I think are nice, but I've never put them anywhere. I take them kind of just as like an exercise and a challenge to take a nice photo of like the creek in my backyard at home and like or like of my dogs or something like that.
Humble brag. You got a creek in your backyard?
Well, okay,
This
so
guy
when
really
you,
is a millionaire.
when you live out in the woods, there's a lot of free space. Yeah, it's Vancouver is very different. The Vancouver real estate market is very different than Kenora, Ontario. It's changing a little bit, but at the time, like as we were growing up, at first it was like, oh yeah, like poor people live outside the city, and so like the housing and everything was cheap, and especially in Kenora in the Ontario area, there's lots of lakes and things like that. So everyone has homes and stuff on lakes because there's so many. They're everywhere. So that is all super common. And it was all relatively inexpensive because people wanted to live in the city, in the 90s-ish area when my parents bought their second house and we moved. But yeah, so that's why we have a creek in the backyard. And it sounds impressive now, but at the time, like in the 90s, if you said that, I'd be like, oh, this poor guy and this got running water in his backyard.
He's going to get a flood.
Yeah.
He's not a millionaire. He's a zillionaire.
So
Is this wordplay, Dave? But
Mhm.
off his last name? Or
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it.
You get
Copy
it,
that.
Jason?
Yeah, I got it right
Okay,
away.
I got it. Awesome. All right, another slow clap.
Okay.
I liked it.
All right.
I mean, so that's how I got into photography, and I'd say the first type of content that I was being like business wise is during undergrad. I worked as a photographer, in nightclubs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
and
We've been down that path too.
Yeah.
What have you seen? What happened?
I mean, there's maybe
Wait,
like a story.
Kenora nightclubs?
Briefly, so the way.
Is there a creek in the club?
No, but it is on the lake, the club that I
course.
worked at.
Oh, very nice.
Like
Well,
floats?
It's like a cottage.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no. It's lake adjacent.
Okay.
What about Jason?
Yeah.
Jason was
Like
there.
a Jason.
Lake Jason.
And so the way that I positioned myself was, the clubs in Winnipeg, they wanted someone who was already good at the job. They didn't want to train anyone. So I went to my like restaurant slash nightclub that's in Kenora, and I was like, hey, let me take photos for your Facebook page and stuff like that. And so like I kind of worked a few nights there just practicing taking nightclub photos. And then I used that and I went to Winnipeg nightclubs and I was like, hey, hire me. I sent that out to everyone. Finally, a new nightclub was opening and I contacted the owner. She hired me really quickly, even though the manager was then mad at the time because she was just like, whatever, hire him. But then it all worked out well. Like my manager and I got along and worked in nightclubs. And I guess to answer your question of like, if I've seen some things, surprisingly, not the clubs that I worked at were country bars.
Mm.
And there is something about country bars that are so much nicer to work in. I think it's the type of people that go to country bars. Like, I'd say like there's women and then like women's boyfriends for the most part. And there just is a less of like a typical nightclub vibe of like, I'm there to, pick up girls or whatever. A lot of people there are genuinely there to like dance to like line dancing.
Yeah.
And it's more fun and there's less like there's few fights and stuff like that and like weird stuff happening. I guess like the stories that I would tell probably off air.
Can't wait.
Happen just like in times I've been out at nightclubs.
The cameras are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. Those aren't running.
Yeah, whatever.
You tell.
I'll preface. I'll set up the scene of like kind of the weirder, or crazy things I've seen, and then you can just imagine the rest. The nightclub
Like me.
was a bank where there's an upstairs, but it's all balcony, so it's like 3 stages of balcony, and you look down on the dance floor, and so there's everyone on the dance floor, and then you can look up to people, and you just like you could see people up on the second floor there. And yeah, people just aren't like when it's dark out and you have a lot of drinks, I guess you just don't think that people can see you, like you're invisible. And so so I'll leave it there.
He's looked upwards. He's seen some shit. What do you make in a night taking photos at these nightclubs?
So I think at the time, I mean, my manager told me, I'll take his word for it, but I was charging $125 a night, and that was like the highest paid nightclub photographer in Winnipeg at the time.
Of course, they told you that.
Yeah, it's like I probably believe him. I think he's a great guy. So but other people would do it. I knew other people would do it for cheaper. So had I been like, no, I want 200 a night, they'd be like, we're just gonna hire someone else.
Yeah. Jason and I, we were in the photography kind of nightclub photography business for a little bit there. We partnered up.
Business.
Wait, how did I not know this?
You didn't know this?
No.
Yeah, I mean, well,
What
were
kind
we
of
making?
shit did
I
you
guess we were
see?
making videos, not photos.
We made like short, like it wasn't even social clips. I don't know, promo videos, I guess, for the nightclub.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I could show you some off the pod.
Yeah.
But one experience comes to mind. We showed up,
Oh, yeah.
18 years old, to Boss Nightclub, which no longer exists.
Where?
And it was on Richard Street.
Yeah.
Okay.
Richards.
Yeah, it was mostly Asian nightclub. Like we were like two white guys there.
Hello,
standing.
fellow clubbers.
We showed up, 18 years old. The promoter hired us because he knew our YouTube videos. He liked them, all that. He had us out. We showed up so early, like 8 o'clock maybe. Like there's like the staff had just showed up, and we're there with our homemade Steadicam that we had made out of PVC pipe and scrap wood and stuff, and just come with our crappy gear. Jason's got like the Justin Bieber haircut, classic, like huge head of hair. We look like we're at 18.
Yeah, definitely.
Super. We look like we're
Definitely.
14. And and then this one bouncer, he just keeps looking at us, keeps looking over his shoulder, like, what the hell are these kids doing here? And we're just trying to act cool, just pretend we know what we're doing, but we're at the club at 8 p.m. There's no one there. And we're just like looking around. And so the line starts to fill up a little bit. And then eventually, bouncer comes over to us. And because we had just got in without having to show our ID because no one was there.
Mhm.
There was no bouncer. So we asked to see our ID. And he asks us to leave. And then we're super bummed. We tell the promoter, hey, we got to leave. He says, why? He won't let us in. We're underage. And he had no idea. He had absolutely no idea. I think that was our very first club experience, Jason.
Yeah, must have been. I
Or
mean,
one
we
of
didn't really experience anything.
Well,
we had to leave.
We went inside and then we got kicked out.
Yeah.
They kicked you out after you asked for one alcohol, please.
Yeah.
I actually asked for a milk. So
Yeah, I asked for a Kool-Aid jammer. Pretty upset.
That's a totally different thing in a nightclub.
I'm looking at Kenora here. Kenora here is hardly land. It's like mostly water, it looks like. It's like a bunch of little islands.
It's all
Oh,
creeks.
yes. It's lake country. Everyone has a boat. Fishing is super popular. It's the city itself is on Lake of the Woods, which is a huge lake. There are parts of it where you can't see across. And people live on islands. Apparently, lots of famous people. Like if you go out into the lake, it's tons of islands all kind of just scattered around. And you'd be putting along, and it'd be like, oh, like there's a mansion and like a helipad, and like there's a bunch of them out there.
There's a creek in the backyard.
Yeah, it's all creeks.
he's got 2 creeks.
Yeah, I only have one. It's. I think it's a very popular area for some movie stars and things like that.
Really?
And I can't remember. A story I always hear is Goldie Hawn, I think, has a cabin out there. And everyone, it's a small town, 16,000 people. Everyone kind of knows each other somewhat, or like is familiar with what people look like in the town. And this is a story my mom had told me. Just like Goldie Hawn would go out in Kenora, but she'd wear like a disguise. But you could tell like that's a blonde wig. Like there's just why is that woman wearing a blonde wig? Like it would just be you could tell they're in a disguise. So it was like kind of defeating the purpose. Like
Drawing more attention
yeah,
to
you're
them.
like what's going on here? So yeah, Kenora's kind of a funny place, and it's a small town. But
Did you ever confirm that it was actually Goldie Hawn?
I know so the story goes.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of people have said that in the hometown. It's before I was quite young, I think, when she would visit the area and things like that. So I hear.
She's like the Loch Ness monster of Kenora. Like we thought we saw a Goldie.
Yeah, and then who else was around? My friend saw Rob Schneider once when we were filming. They were filming some movie that ended up never getting made, and he stopped at Shell once when my friend was working.
Deuce
Kenora.
Bigelow 3D.
It was something kind of like a weird movie, like Susie and the Miracle Fish or something.
Oh, that old thing.
Well, Kenora makes sense.
Yeah,
Lots of
yeah,
water.
that's true.
But no, it's a funny place. It's I like it a lot. One thing that always gets people is our Safeway. Again, everything is on the lake.
What is a
Some-
Safeway for our
a grocery store?
international
Our grocery
listeners?
store
Okay.
has docks. Like people drive their boats to go get groceries.
No way. That's
Sick.
You pull up you pull up to the dock and you tie up your boat and you go get groceries. And
It's like the floating McDonald's.
sounds
Mm.
fun once a year, and then when you have to do it regularly, it sounds really annoying.
yeah, so when the worst is like there's winter there and
What?
you
people
guys
who
haven't
live.
abolished that yet?
We're trying.
We're working on it.
Everyone who lives on the island. So there's a small island, say right across from the Safeway, called Coney Island, and it lots of people live there. But in the summer, you have to boat there. In the winter, when the ice kind of freezes over, they put a bridge. But there's this in between area where when you want to get over there, you have to boat. But it's like November and it's freezing, and you just have to like putt along in your boat like. It's like 3-5 below. It's awful. Yeah.
Oh, I see Coney Island. Is this the Safeway here? Is it,
Yeah, that looks right.
this is it? Oh, I thought you were saying it was on an island. Is this an island?
No, the island. It's that island
Oh,
like right
I
across
see.
there. But
They have to commute.
yeah, they got a
Yep.
boat.
There's some funny names here. I'm seeing Rat Portage Bay.
Yeah.
You live just south of Reddit,
Oh, yep. The town of Reddit.
the town of Reddit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the
where
same?
it's from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It goes every like once a year. Someone will post like visiting Reddit and the sign of Reddit, and it'll get like
Yeah.
100,000 upvotes.
Shit.
Yeah.
And you also live south of White Dog, and
Mhm.
you live just east of Eagle Dogtooth Provincial Park. People are just like pulling names out of a bucket.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's got a name.
Does it have a good skate park or dirt jump?
It does have a great skate park actually.
Oh, really?
It's small, but it's just so well designed. Of all the skate parks I've visited, probably my favorite still.
No way.
Wow. They compensate for no mountains, I guess, and no hills.
Yeah.
Gonna make great skate parks.
Now the only problem is it's at the rec center and it's kind of up on a bit of a hill, but again it's on the lake, which is similar to the prairies in that there's nothing to stop the wind. So sometimes you go to ride and you'd be like just a windstorm,
Mm.
and it would kind of suck.
Yeah,
so it's
Richmond-
not a
Richmond's like that.
great area for a skate park, just up on a hill like on open water. Pretty windy sometimes, but no, it's a great skate park, and yeah, everyone who comes visits like, oh, such a fun little skate park.
So, how has the YouTube journey been for you up to this point? Documenting yourself, riding bikes. I assume that's all you've posted on YouTube.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Anything
like bikes and bike related.
Yeah.
I'll post some sciencey stuff on Instagram sometimes.
Okay.
I posted a short maybe once of like one sciencey thing.
So, has it been a good journey for you? Has it been a positive journey?
Yeah, I think for me, I have a pretty different approach than especially the full-time YouTubers. It's always been like whatever I like and whatever I think is fun kind of first, because I am doing lots of other things. And especially when I started, I didn't ever think that, like, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel and like in 2 years, I'm going to have 100,000 subscribers and like, I'm going to make a go of it. I just started a YouTube channel because I liked making videos, and I was like, oh, I'll just like post them here. And then they started getting attention, and I kind of just stuck to that of just posting what I like to watch, and then kind of what I'm doing and what I like to edit and things like that. And so it's been good in that I don't think it's been that stressful or anything. I guess the only downside is sometimes like if you do feel like you've made a good video or something and it doesn't go well or something like that, you're kind of like, oh. I really don't get. I used to get more negative comments, like when I first started. Just people would be like, "You suck," things like that. It's like, okay.
Those were our burner accounts.
Yeah. Sorry.
Your competition to us,
That rarely happens now, though. I'd say like
because you delete them and you blocked
I'm on
everybody.
I mean, I'm like when it comes to like shadow banning, yeah. Like if someone is like obviously trolling,
Yeah.
and it's not a criticism. Again, like even I think I make pretty benign content. Like the criticism could just be something like your hub's too loud. I'm not going to be like, oh, that hurt my feelings or anything.
Where do you
like,
live?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just me riding my bike with my friends for the most part. And yeah, people enjoy it definitely more than I thought. And I definitely do feel lucky in the sense of like, there's something about what I'm doing that people enjoy. And that, I feel like that doesn't necessarily need to be true. Like I do this and there's something about my videos or I don't know, my voice or something like that people like. And that's allowed me to kind of do the YouTube thing. And then the money has helped in terms of now I can kind of ride more and focus maybe less on doing other things to support my graduate career. So a lot of people will work like at a Safeway, for example. And those kind of jobs are pretty rough. Yeah. And luckily I don't have to do that. And I can kind of, between my graduate stipend and YouTube, I can kind of just like squeak by. And so, yeah, all in all, no complaints, I guess. And it's been good. And the community has been good. I've met my friends, actually. I guess, I've met you guys because of YouTube. I've met Dave and Dale, the two guys that I ride with the most, who both have YouTube channels as well because of YouTube. Eric from BCPOV. Yeah, I'd say like a lot of the people that I talk to daily right now really is because of YouTube. So the benefits for YouTube for me as well, it hasn't even just been like the social status of having a YouTube channel or the money, which, I mean, it's not a lot of money either way. But all the other stuff that it's allowed me to do and the people I've met have been probably the best part.
With it being, sounds like you have a pretty casual approach to it.
Oh yeah.
Do you foresee that changing, like once the views start going up? And do you ever feel like, oh, I'm going for a bike ride, I gotta film this, I gotta keep the content wheel turning? Or can you just go for a bike ride?
I could see it changing. Like once I'm finished with school and I graduate, and I have to kind of figure out what I want to do next. I do like making videos, and I've done it for a long time. Mostly not on YouTube, but yeah, I could see. It's hard to tell how I'll feel even from a year from now, but I could see it happening. Yes, like where I go, like let's take this more seriously and let's start being more rigorous about how I approach a video, and go like, let's find the intersection of what people want to watch and what I want to do and what I can do, and start making outlining videos, coming up with good concepts, making sure they're entertaining, editing them well, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would say definitely, but it depends too. Like if I graduate and someone's like, hey, here's a $500,000 job, in the electron mines, then I'll it might be hard to pass by. And
yeah, and then you can
just
still
ball
also
out.
just go ride your
Yeah,
bike.
that's
Yeah.
too. Like I do want to be careful. Right now, I think I've found a happy medium between doing it as a job and not having it, and having it still be a hobby where I really enjoy it, and I still watch a lot of mountain bike content because I really like it, and I still am looking at mountain bikes all the time, and I always want to ride more mountain bikes and ride more. It's not like, oh, I got to go film a video. I usually want to go film a video, and right now I'm kind of in like a happy medium, and yeah. So for the foreseeable future, a year or so, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm just gonna have to pick it up and review it in about a year or so when I graduate, and see where I'm at.
I scroll through your Instagram, and you're getting crazy views on some of these videos. You get like 20 million views for a GoPro video.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Again, for some reason on Instagram, on TikTok, I had a video of me riding Boogie Nights like really blow up. Boogie Nights is the jump trail. You're the only jump trail here in North Vancouver. It got 20 million views on Instagram and 25 million on TikTok. And a lot of people then have joined my Instagram page and TikTok pages from that. And yeah, something going viral it's hard, hard to figure out exactly what it is about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think it's reproducible. So I can't really give you a good answer of why
Well,
it's
you've
happened, but
reproduced it a couple times. There's some.
Yeah.
You might have like 15 million on another video or something, but
yeah, people, again, I feel lucky in the sense of like, especially the vertical content, the riding for me, part of it that I enjoy is the progression. You challenge yourself to ride something new or whatever. And there's also something about filming it where it looks cool at the same time is also like its own challenge. And then when that comes together where you're like both proud of the thing you've done and you feel like you filmed it and you're like, oh, that actually looks pretty cool. That's the kind of stuff I like to post on Instagram and whatnot. And that's another thing I've done for a long, long time. Even I have another Instagram that's just my personal Instagram. And if you go way back, it still is like BMX clips and stuff like that. Of like oh, like I feel like, I did a table, the best table I've ever done. And I also think like I filmed it at the right angle where it looks cool. And again, I feel lucky in that there's something that people seem to enjoy. And now I think like 110,000 people follow me on Instagram, which is,
how much has that grown in a year?
So like 70,000 people in the last few months. So since Christmas, so I posted it in like late November, and then it just like blew up over Christmas.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you want to tell your secrets, but what's the secret to a good POV clip on Instagram?
He doesn't know.
I don't really know. It's one of those things I feel like I know it when I see it. I don't really have like a list of things that I'm looking for. And I think that's just how my mind works in general. Maybe I just don't talk to people about these things enough, but there's definitely a lot of just like intuition and feeling when it comes to these things. And even how I approach anything, it's like I'm doing it, and then someone, my girlfriend is always asking me things like did you like, this new drink we tried? Like, yeah. And she'd be like, what do you like about it? I need to actually think like, what did I like about it? Like, oh, it was sparkly, and I guess like I liked it was pineapple flavored, and so it's almost the same with making content, where I really am not like actively being rigorous in my mind with like a list of things. I'm just kind of going where the wind takes me. And,
I mean, maybe that's part of the secret
yeah.
of the success.
It's like that sounds super artsy, I guess, and mysterious.
We've talked about this a few times, like trying too hard sets you back.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I was just going to say really quick.
Cutting off each other's
I
podcast.
Think also, part of the secret is you're really good at biking. Like your Boogie Nights clip isn't you just riding the trail normally. Like, you're going fast. You're hitting all the things in an inspirational way that other people might want to try and replicate.
You ride in an inspirational way, Nick.
Yeah, I would be hesitant even, like the level of riding here is so high that the way that I always thought about it was if someone was describing, like if someone who hadn't met me be like, oh, like, do you know Nick? And oh, he mountain bikes, and be like, oh, is he good at mountain biking? Be like, oh, he's very good. I feel like that is an accurate description. The level of ride, like there's, even within my friend group, I'm probably the worst rider. And then even within our group, there are groups of riders who are all better than us. And yeah, the level of riding here is just insane. So I even case like the third jump in that video.
Yeah,
so
you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh. And so yeah, so maybe, yeah, if you're not as familiar with mountain biking, that probably plays to my advantage too, of like, if you don't see a lot of mountain biking, or you are in an area where maybe it's more casual, and you see that, and be like, it looks extreme and like super fast and everything. So I guess, relative to maybe a casual audience. I
think the top comment on that was, I broke 3 bones just watching this, or something like that. So I think it did go beyond mountain biking.
Yeah.
People are just like, this looks insane.
Exactly.
This exists.
Yeah, I got a lot of comments, especially I posted a clip of the dynamite roll, a really huge rock roll.
Yeah.
And there's comments that are like, oh, you're risking your life, and like, how do you not flip over? And so there's a lot of non-mountain bikers who are consuming this content, which is interesting because I really don't know. I don't make content necessarily for non-mountain bikers. I'm like pretty focused in on like the niche of mountain biking into people who want to watch like technical POV riding is like a pretty small subset of people. And so yeah, it's interesting to see some of this stuff go out to a general audience and how they react to it. I mean, it's fun because they're pumped. They're like, whoa, like I've never seen something like this.
Does the crashing mountain bike industry affect you at all? This dip we've entered?
No. So even if mountain biking just got like Thanos away, like like it just snapped, like you're like 50% of biking, like mountain biking just like disappeared. Yeah, I would just start BMXing again, and I would just ride skate parks more, or even like trials. I dabbled with trials for a while, and I would have a trials bike now if I had more room and time. So yeah, it really hasn't affected me at all, even in terms of like some of the brand partners I have for my channel. Yeah, things are still chugging along, business as usual. And maybe there's less interest in YouTube mountain bike videos since the pandemic. Like there was a big surge with everyone buying bikes and getting into mountain biking. So maybe views wise, like you could say that that's affected me. But at the end of the day, even with YouTube, like if I start posting videos and they get 100 views or 50 views or no views, yeah, even that I could just stop focusing on YouTube if I really wanted to or didn't feel like making YouTube videos, and it wouldn't totally crush me or anything like that. I would probably just still make content, like if I won the lottery or something like that. I would just still make YouTube videos pretty similar to how I do now. Just maybe I would turn off monetization or donate it or something like that.
Just hand out the DVDs again.
Yeah, just on the street.
You want to buy my mixtape?
Fucking flinging them at people riding by.
Every edit to 50 cent too.
Yeah,
we don't have much time here. We got to play a quick game with you, but there's a question in our show notes that I can't not ask. I didn't write this one. I don't know who did, but with no context, what was it like creating an autonomous ice mass balance buoy? What the hell did I just ask?
So during my undergrad, so when you're an engineer, one of the things you try to do is get co-ops or like experience of some sort so that you're not useless when you graduate. And I applied for what's called the NSERC Undergraduate Award. So that's the National Science and Engineering Research Council. So I won a small amount of money to work over the summer with a sea ice researcher who wanted to develop a way to monitor sea ice at a lower cost. Because science stuff, just like if you think mountain biking is expensive, science stuff is just wildly expensive. It's like, oh, you want like a post? Like that'll be $500. Just like, it's just a metal tube.
Sounds like film.
It's like, yeah, it's just like, if it's science, like science-y, it's so expensive. So they were having a problem that, it costs a lot to send out like a data logger onto the sea ice and not ever get it back and have it cost like $20,000 or something like that. So they're like, oh, like let's see if we can make like kind of just a cheap whatever and see if we can record some data that way. So that was my project, and I worked on it for about 2.5 years during my undergrad. Basically, I took an Arduino, a small like programmable computer kind of, and I designed my own data logger, and it would record like air temperature and air humidity. And we had a string of temperature sensors that so you drill into the ice and then you drop the string through the ice and then let it freeze. And then we record the temperature gradient through the ice and all that kind of stuff. And it had to be in a box, like ended up putting it in a Pelican case. And then it was connected to sort of a satellite, a system called Iridium, where you could send text messages from anywhere in the world. And so it would record the data and it would send the data back to us, kind of in this like SMS text. So I designed something to do that. And luckily I was able to go to Churchill, Manitoba, right on the sort of the edge of Hudson's Bay there. And we went out in a helicopter and I got to deploy this out on some mobile sea ice. And yeah, which is a pretty wild experience because, so first of all, helicopters are kind of scary. But people die pretty often flying over the ocean in helicopters. And people from the University of Manitoba where I was doing my undergrad had died like years earlier. Like a group of researchers, like a helicopter crashed into the sea ice. They lived through the crash and then like died in the water. And so yeah, it's pretty wild. And as we're flying, I'm in the front seat and we've got all these big tubes set up that we're going to deploy. And in the helicopter, there's kind of like, there's the stick in the middle, and the guy's like, no one touch the stick. Like, we'll go down. And
Don't give him the stick.
somehow the pilot's like spidey sense tingled, and one of the tube things had like tipped over and was about to just like crunch the controls, and he had like caught it. He's like, hey, someone grab this? We're like, oh my God. So that was scary. Then when you get out to the sea ice, so all the water is moving, and you basically have like these big chunks of ice that are floating around in the Hudson, and you don't know how thick they are because sometimes it breaks up and just like a thin layer will freeze and then it'll snow on top. So you have to take the helicopter, you fly and you land on it, and then he's got to keep the power on and just like lightly touch down. Someone has to get out, drill in the ice, make sure it's over like 2 or 3 feet thick or whatever, and then we can get out. But there's a chance like that he puts it down and there's no ice there, and you just go bloop into the water. And then the pilots needed to come with us, but they also needed to be trained with firearms because the polar bears at that time go out onto the sea ice. And so there's like a real chance that like if a polar bear sees you, like you're going to be attacked. So we had like a bunch of rifles, things like that. And so yeah, went out in the Hudson Bay, and I had my autonomous ice mass balance buoy, which is just a fancy word for data logger, and put it out there, drilled my hole, put in my sensors, and put up my little satellite, and then we choppered away.
Sounds more dangerous than mountain biking.
Yeah.
Yeah, dangerous in the sense that like you weren't really in control. Like there's a chance that a bear might see you, and even in Churchill, I'm pretty sure that there's a law that says you can't keep your doors locked and things like that, because if a polar bear is chasing you, like you need to go into a car or into a house and like get away from it, because they will attack you. And even when you're at the research facility, there you can't go outside alone. You need to have someone watching behind you. So if you're doing something, someone needs to be looking behind you to be like, oh, we got to go inside. There's a bear approaching.
Jeez.
Good times.
It's a different world.
Nick, you might be the smartest guy who has ever walked through our podcast.
I mean, okay, so just,
Am I?
Easily.
You know how,
Sorry, other guy.
Yeah, sorry, everyone else.
I feel like how maybe, my mom who doesn't mountain bike sees me mountain bike and she's like, oh, he's the best mountain biker in the world. Maybe this is happening now where it seems I'm like, it's all smoke and mirrors a bit, where I do these things that
Do. Sorry.
seem correlated like with intelligence, but no, when I'm there's first of all, there's so many smart people even within my lab group. There's tons of smart people, and then within the university, and then within like several universities, like yeah, no, I'm down in the pits.
Not so smart is what you're trying to say. I'm not so smart as I seem.
But when you're surrounded by us,
Yeah.
you seem pretty smart.
Yeah.
You do pretty well here.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if I feel smarter today or dumber. I'm not quite sure. I definitely was feeding off you, becoming a little smarter in ways, but ultimately I think I'm just feeling dumber today.
I never didn't understand what you were talking about.
Oh, good.
So you dumbed it down just right. I was like, Metallica, cool.
Well, maybe there's a slight chance where maybe that's about the level that I also understand it at. And so it's actually come up that because this is a new research area, even within Canada, even kind of, there are other groups though, like a group that we kind of work with at Princeton, where like the head of the lab there, he's like the OG, he's like the man of this area. And it's like embarrassing for me to talk to him. Like it just is. I know so little. It just, I need to like prepare, like read his textbooks, like be like, okay, I got to come up with like a question that doesn't sound like I'm a complete idiot.
How do you think I felt preparing for this podcast?
Yeah, when he's speaking to you and he says doo-doo, do you go doo-doo?
Some people, depending on who you're talking to in like the science community, there's way more of a casual nature, even though there is like a very suit and tie kind of feel to it. But if you look at the history of scientists, especially like the really famous ones, they all kind of go like, Isaac Newton III like grew up poor, and he like published a paper by the time he was 20 that like changed the world, and then he died at 35 of syphilis with his like 7 mistresses and like partying. And you're like, oh, they all the stories kind of end like that. Like, oh, okay. There's some wild folks, and even like the physics departments that I've been a part of and visited. There's definitely an interest in even like psychedelics and stuff like that. And even like some academics now are even talking about like, there's an academic interest in it, but there's definitely more of like, they're not as, stuffy as it would seem on the surface. Sometimes they can get kind of wild.
That was a nice attempt to be like, scientists are cool.
Well, I'm out here.
They fucking die of syphilis, bro.
With 7 wives.
There's 7 wives.
It's a weird, because it's in like a textbook you'll be reading, and you'd be like, oh, things took a pretty wild turn here, like after 30. Yeah.
Well, they knew their time was almost up, because that's just as long as you had back then.
Yeah, that's true. So just die partying, I guess.
Yeah. Should we play this or that?
I have one more question. Do you ever face any judgment because of your hobby and being a biker, BMXer, YouTuber?
Oh, no.
Walking in with skate shoes in the laboratory.
So actually, the other thing that I'm doing now is I've joined the Injury Prevention and Mobility Lab to do my last class that I need to take. I'm doing a directed studies where you kind of make up your own class. I've joined them because they're studying mountain bike falls, and I'm working with them, in part of because I mountain bike and I make content and stuff. And so actually the opposite in that, being a mountain biker has made me kind of like an expert in the lab in terms of I'm an expert mountain biker, and I have all these sort of intuitive things to add to the conversation for them. Like a lot of students studying falling. Like, oh, like, why did this guy do it or whatever, do this or pull his brake or whatever. What's it like riding this stuff? I can help them with that. And I'm also working on a project. My project with them is to look at track stand stability and how vision affects that. So at first I was going to do, so we have a force plate. It's just like a plate in the ground, and it measures, force in every direction and how much torque is being on the plate and whatever. And records it for however long you want. And so I built a platform so you can track stand on it. And so I did a couple studies on myself where I just did a track stand on it for 30 seconds. And then at first I was going to just do eyes closed. That's a really common test for standing stability. You just stand normal light, and then you close your eyes, and then you can see the change in stability. So at first I was going to do that where I close my eyes and try and track stand. Really, really hard. I couldn't even do it. So I had to just do like low light. Where I turned down the lights, and even that I saw like a pretty dramatic change in my stability. I was able to complete the trial, so actually track stand for 30 seconds. But if you look at basically at the end, you produce kind of like kind of a chart, and it's always plotting kind of where your force is. So when you're really stable, you would just make like a dot. If you're perfectly stable, you just have a dot right in the middle. But on a regular light on a bike, I kind of have this diagonal line where you can see me kind of balancing, and it kind of has a bit of fuzziness to it. And as I turned down the lights, that fuzziness increased like at least 50%. And so I'm doing a study. I'm writing my ethics right now to recruit a bunch of people to come and do that same thing and track stand on my force plate and record a bunch of data and analyze it. And so mountain biking in that sense, it's now related to my schoolwork.
So the lesson learned was don't mountain bike with your eyes closed. That was the conclusion.
I think
of the study.
So that stability from track standing until about even like at a slow roll, the dynamics are the same. So going slow and track standing seem to be the same like you're using the same techniques and have the same stability. I would say, application of this information, maybe for mountain biking or something like that is, any sort of competition, you definitely wouldn't want to go later at night or anything like that. Or even riding at night. Sometimes if it's getting towards evening and you're going to ride like a really technical, janky trail, not only is it harder to see, but actually your stability will be worse. So it is like a little more dangerous, something to keep in mind. Maybe in trials as well. Like if you're competing in trials and someone gets to go at noon, but you have to go at like the end of the day where it starts to get like lower and lower light, like there could be like a real difference in just your own performance of being stable.
Reminds me of being a kid and the sun's going down, but I want to keep riding and I'm pushing it harder and harder and just probably just packing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. If you ever want to do any interesting studies here, we got lots of space. If you want to do some weird, nerdy bicycle study, close our eyes, turn the lights off, do some track stands. Like
Play with their buttholes.
Ice buoys.
Wait, what?
This or that, right?
So now we're going to play a game. All right. Jason, I think you got to do the this or that.
Yeah, I'll do it.
And Mr. DJ over there, play that tune. Oh, wait. Hey, guys. Wait, first. When in the future, like when we build this set, we talked about like having like a crazy lighting cue. It goes do 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 do, and then a spotlight lands on the guest.
Like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
The inspo.
I was just imagining that, thinking that would be sick, and probably also cost $5,000. But maybe we can figure it out in a cheap way.
I feel like we could figure it out.
Yeah. Someone who's like really, really smart with technology maybe could help us figure out.
If only we knew someone.
You just hire a bunch of students and hope it works out.
Yeah, we should really be, manipulating that
Yeah,
loophole.
we should be taking advantage of people more.
Yes.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah, go for it.
We didn't explain the rules.
Oh yeah, do you know this game?
The rules
I've seen you guys do it, but what are the rules?
there are no rules.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is this.
You just can't skip. You can't skip.
Oh, okay.
Can't skip. We give you two options. You got to pick one.
It's getting really personal.
And if you lose, there's a trap door you will fall through.
There's a polar bear down there.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave. From or Seymour?
Seymour.
Seymour or Cyprus?
Seymour.
Magnetocephalography or making videos?
Magnetoencephalography.
Jumps or steeps?
Jumps.
Vans or cans?
Vans?
Video games or movies?
Movies.
Bar spins or tail whips?
Barsman.
Coffee or beer?
Beer.
Dave Mira Freestyle BMX or Matt Hoffman's Pro BMX?
Dave Mira.
Manitoba or BC?
BC.
Underbiked or overbiked?
Overbike.
Helicopter crash or polar bear attack?
Helicopter crash.
Wet trails or dusty trails?
Wet trails.
Get the Neuralink or hit the Toonie drop?
Either one's going to 50% kill you.
Yeah. Neuralink.
Ooh. Autonomous ice mass balance buoy or Chinese spy balloon?
Chinese spy balloon. Yeah.
Traitor.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's the next
Or
stage.
X Games or Do Tour?
X game.
Dirt jumps or skate parks?
Skate parks.
Instagram or YouTube?
YouTube.
Enduro race or skate park session?
Skate park session.
Arrow in thumbnail or potentially less views?
Arrow and thumbnail.
Shuttle or pedal?
Shuttle.
Chin mount GoPro or chest mount GoPro?
Chin mount.
Kenora or Vancouver?
Vancouver.
Crankworks or Rampage?
Rampage.
Feeble or Smith?
Smith.
Finally, BMX or mountain bike?
Mountain bike.
Wow, that was easy. Congratulations,
Yeah.
you've won nothing. You did well though. You picked, which is good.
Yeah, you were the maybe the most decisive person we've ever had.
Oh.
Yeah,
People
that's
usually hum and haw pretty hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm well known in my house for being indecisive.
Oh. Well, take that, Astro.
Yeah. It's just it's two of us and one of them's a dog.
Jason, you almost pronounced Magno. I haven't tried yet. I'm going to give it a shot. Magneto. Oh, God. Magnetoencephalography.
Yeah.
All right.
Magneto, like the X-Men, and then encephalography, I guess, is the hard one.
magnetoencephalography.
If you're not in science, you're just not used to looking at a word that's that long and trying to break it down and then say it.
I know a longer word.
Mhm.
I don't know if I say it right though, but it's the longest word. Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
It's the condition he has in his pants.
Is that like syphilis?
There's micro
yeah.
in there.
yeah. I only have a few more years.
It's not small, I have. And say it again.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Hi.
It's hereditary.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being the first guest in our new place.
That was great. Yeah.
It sounds better now. The HVAC actually turned off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is fantastic.
Oh yeah. Just in time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for the beers too. You brought us some gifts.
I did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What were they again?
They're blueberry beer from Lake of the Woods Brewery in Kenora, Ontario.
The taste of Kenora?
Yep.
The taste of Kenora. The
In your
taste of
mouth.
Reddit.
Yeah. Ew.
Thanks for joining us. Do you feel metaphorically full today?
Like this is it for me.
Like
I
ha-
need to go home and lay down.
Perhaps, yeah. Do you feel well fed? Have you fed off of us today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great.
You're gonna go home and lay down. Anything to promote? Where can people find your videos? What's your YouTube channel name?
Yeah. So I guess if they want to watch my videos now, it's VanCan on YouTube, VanCan, which is it's Vancouver, Canada, just shortened.
I
Yeah.
almost asked, but I was like, nah, that's too stupid of a question.
Oh, it's too stupid of a name. It really, it's not as like well thought out as other people's. And then same with similar on Instagram, it's VanCan MTB, and TikTok is Van_Can_. Someone has the name.
And what if people want to learn more about magnetoencephalography?
Ooh, the best place for that? Probably just YouTube.
Just Google images
just-
like we did
Just
all
Googling
podcast.
YouTube. Yeah, there actually isn't that many great resources, especially for like an introduction. Sometimes it can get pretty heavy, pretty fast.
Dave, you got to say it once before we turn the podcast off.
Magnetoencephalography.
Ooh,
Wow, this
Nailed
guy's
it.
smart. All right, everybody, this is it. This is the end of the road. Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe, rate our show on whatever platform you're listening on. Drop us a review. We haven't read or we haven't listened to any speak pipes in a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we've been doing guests.
I can't wait though.
You got to lay some pipe later.
I can't wait. And also looking forward to this podcast eventually having multi-cameras.
Mhm.
And we're going to have a video switcher and switch between the cameras live. It's going to be pretty cool. So keep watching. And that's it, as always.
Magnetoencephalography.
That's
Yep.
the sound of a
Yep.
polar bear eating
Oh.
Nick's head.
Thank you for listening to Feeding Off Each Other. Please subscribe for more great podcasts.